Arcade games are so freaking fun. They're the candy of the retro game world. You don't want to eat them all day every day or you'll get a tummy ache, but just a little bit every now and then adds some nice spice to your life. That's why they're the spice of the retro game world. And playing them via emulation means that you don't need to spend all your mom's quarters to play them, which is good because she needs those quarters for the laundromat. I've done a handful of hidden gems videos. I really like making these kinds of videos because I really like looking for hidden gems. It's one of my favorite ways to play old retro games, actually. Just browsing the lists, looking for things that look good that I never heard of, trying them out and seeing if I can find any fun games that nobody talks about that I can show you guys. The way that I do this is I take a handheld that I've set up and I look at the games lists and I look through the screenshots and ratings and descriptions of the games, find some that look promising, mark them as favorite, and then later I go through all the favorites and try them out and take out the ones that I don't end up liking, and that leaves me with a list of bangers, and you get to hear about a few of them today. The handheld that I'm going to be showing you this stuff on is the new transparent white RG35XX SP, better known as the Flip Zizzle. I'm going to show you the gameplay on this, and all the gameplay that I captured was captured from the video out function on this thing, because you can plug this into a TV or a computer to use it as a console, which is very cool. The kind folks over at NXT sent me this to play with, and all they asked was that I show it to you in a video, and this is that video, and there's a link to where you can buy this in the doodad below if you want to pick one up for yourself. Anyways, the thing about arcade game hidden gem hunting is that there are a flippin' ton of arcade games. My arcade game list is over 2,400 games long. I didn't try every game, obviously, but I did try a ton of them. And in the end, I have a list of games that I found that I love, but I have over 200 games in that list. So needless to say, this is only going to be the first arcade hidden gems video that I make. There's more on the way, so get subscribed if you don't want to miss those. I'm going to be showing you 5 of them today, which I think is a good number for a video like this because it'll give me a couple minutes to show you each one properly. How does that sound? Good, I hope, because here they come. Let's start with a sports game that's unlike any other sports game that you've played unless you're actually a time-traveling caveman and you used to play soccer with a rock and a club. Or unless you've already played Stoneball, I guess. I love arcade sports games because sports games are fun, but arcade sports games keep the controls and the tactics simple. Stoneball isn't complicated at all, but it's also not quite a pure sports game because you can beat each other up with your clubs and stuff. It's sort of almost a fighting game at the same time. So yeah, the idea here is that you're playing soccer as a caveman. The teams only have 2 players, and obviously this would be super fun if you had 4 real-life dweebs all tipsy from root beer playing this at the same time, but it is still fun solo. When you're on the attack, you can pass the ball and shoot the ball and dodge, and when you're on the defense, you can steal and attack with your club and tackle. The club attacking is fun. You can get into these little brawls and it almost feels like a beat 'em up, but really a simple and quick tackle is the best way to get the ball free. The controls feel pretty weird at first. Everything feels a bit floaty or something, but once you get used to the playfield and the physics, it'll click and then it'll feel very accurate and natural. The thing that makes this game fun is the ridiculous things that happen. The little brawls and all the weird tactical things you do because of all the violence. The ball has some weight to it, so you can't launch it from down the field. You have to get close and be accurate with your aiming. And it can be tense when you're moving up the field trying to dodge the clubs of the enemies and trying to line up a shot that'll actually get the rock in the hole. And then you get these totally bonkers random things happening, like this ostrich that steals the ball and starts running around. I freaking hate that ostrich, man. The graphics are really special in this game. The characters have a lot of expressive animation and there is a sort of tilt shift effect to the battlefield that gives the whole scene a 3D feel. It's impressive, both from a technical standpoint but also from an artistic one. But I'm easily impressed. I am a caveman after all. This here is Wizard Fire. Obviously, it's a fantasy adventure game. When you pop in your quarter, you have a choice of 5 characters. An elf, a bard, a knight, a dwarf, and a wizard. Pretty basic fantasy stuff. And the game itself is also basic fantasy stuff. It's like a campy old school dungeon crawler game in a generic classic fantasy setting. Sort of like a Diablo style game, but in the arcade, which is actually an amazing formula. I know there's lots of fantasy arcade games. Most of them are beat 'em ups, but I don't think that there's many top-down isometric Diablo dungeon crawler style games, unless I'm mistaken. If you know of any others, please let me know in the comments below because I love this style of game. Who knew that Diablo makes such an amazing arcade game? So each character has their own unique fighting style, their own weapons and special attacks. To be honest, there's not much difference between them. They're all kind of just medium-range characters. That's fine though. The gameplay is tight. The movement feels good. The attacks feel satisfying. It's kind of bonkers from a visual standpoint. There's always a freaking ton going on the screen. Lots of enemies moving around and projectiles to avoid, traps and stuff. But there's also lots to see. I like how there's actual exploration in this game instead of just going from point A to point B. The gameplay starts out super basic and it also ends super basic, to be honest. There's not a ton you can do by way of advanced tactics or anything, but once you get into the groove, it just becomes satisfying. This is one of the reasons that I like arcade games, because you have infinite quarters and the games are repetitive. You can just kind of turn off your brain and enjoy the silly ride. It doesn't last long. Like lots of arcade games, they aren't built to be, big, long and involved things. You can finish the whole game in like 30 minutes, but that's another reason that I like arcade games. They're not a huge commitment. You can just blow through them and have a fun time doing it and then move on to the next one. This game isn't going to change your life or anything. It's just a fun, silly fantasy adventure that doesn't outstay its welcome. Next up, we have In the Hunt. I immediately felt like I'd like this game as soon as I saw the screenshot, and it got a million times better once I actually started up the game. It's freaking gorgeous and a ton of fun and tough as heck. This is a horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up game, one of my favorite genres. However, what's unique here is that it takes place underwater. But don't worry, you don't have to hold your breath or anything, because in this game you're piloting a sub. That's right, it's a sub shoot 'em up, a sub 'em up, I call it. You have two attacks. You can shoot out the front horizontally and you can shoot out the top vertically. However, the vertical shooting only shoots to the top of the surface of the water if you're underwater. But if you're on the surface, it shoots up into the sky, so you can shoot down the helicopters and stuff. In the last game that I told you about, I said it was the kind of experience where you can just turn off your brain and enjoy a nice, easy, lightweight adventure. But In the Hunt is the opposite of that. This game is freaking hard. You need to stay sharp because you have bullets flying at you from all directions and the levels and enemies are constantly throwing new challenges at you. So if you turn your brain off, you'll just end up constantly exploded, no matter how many of your mom's virtual quarters you put in, or your virtual mom's quarters, or your virtual mom's virtual quarters, depending on your mom and quarter situation. What I love about this game is how different it is. One moment you're dodging subfire, the next you're being bombarded from above and need to learn the pattern. The next you're fighting a huge boss, and then you're avoiding underwater missiles, and then you're shooting through submerged buildings. And the icing on the cake is the art and the animation. Just look at this freaking game. It's just about as nice as retro pixel art gets. And then we have Fast Lane, and it is hard to describe. I mean, it's a driving game, but it's also kind of a maze game, but then it's also kind of a puzzle game. It's like lots of different games all at once. And it's gonna go like this. If you try it at first, you'll hate it. But if you can play it for 5 minutes, eventually it'll click and you'll fall in love with it. You are a little car and you're driving around on the track. You can't change directions, but you can change lanes whenever there's an opening. You need to drive around the level and clear the stuff. It's different stuff in every level, but there's stuff on the ground and you need to clear it. The problem is that there's a bad guy vehicle, that blue monster truck. He's trying to kill you by driving you over and squishing you like the nerd you are. And he's actually decently intelligent. You can try to outsmart him, but he responds pretty quickly and it's hard to outmaneuver him. Luckily, there are rollerbladers around the level, and if you run into them, you get power-ups. I don't know why hitting defenseless rollerbladers with your car is a good thing. We probably shouldn't be encouraging such behavior, but this was back in 1987. Different times, you know? So if you hit a rollerblader, you get a power-up. You might get a jump so you can leap over the truck, or a shot so you can shoot him, or a speed up to ram him. And that's how you do it. You avoid the bad vehicle, collecting power-ups for when you inevitably get cornered by the bad vehicle, and then you use the power-ups to escape. And you also have a button to speed up your car, so if you're on a straightaway, you can floor it to fly along the road and grab a ton of stuff. But I said it was a puzzle game, and the puzzle is that each level is different. The strategy that let you clear level 1 won't work for level 2 and so on. And it's a frantic thing to try to figure out the strategy while trying to figure out how to get the power-ups and avoid death. And just when you finish a level and feel like you're on top of the world, the next level starts and you're suddenly lost about what to do. And that's why it's addictive. It's a simple loop that requires you to use your brain and get good. And our last game is this game. It's called Magical Error Wo Sagase. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Actually, I'm definitely pronouncing it wrong, so we'll just call it Magical Error. This is a Find the Difference game. Yeah, that's right, a Find the Difference arcade game. I had no idea such games existed. Here's the thing. My mom loves Find the Difference games. She used to play Find the Difference games on those old Big Fish games and Flash games. They don't really seem to make much of these anymore, but when I found this, I knew she'd love it, and I was right. I showed her this on my Flip Zizzle, and she stole it from me for the whole night. I bet she spent like $300 in virtual quarters playing this. There's a few things that make this tricky though. The scenes are flipped, so sometimes you're trying to tell what's different, but your brain keeps second guessing yourself because it's mirrored, and you're under a time limit. You only have a few seconds to find 3 differences. And if you can find them quick, you'll be taken on to the next stage, but if you lose your cool and you can't spot the difference before the time runs out, then you're out of the game. In real life, you'd have to put in another quarter to keep playing. But in fake life, my mom has all the quarters in the world. The levels start easy but get really hard really quick. After a few warm-up levels, you'll be given some really tricky puzzles where the differences are hard to spot. And these levels where they have a moving background is just a nightmare. It's really tough. The art is cute, some nice little scenes that they made for us here, fun super Japanese sound effects and graphics. I don't know what they're saying, but my brain fills it in. I like to think the announcer girl is telling everyone how great TechDweeb is and also how she wants to go on a date with him. Too bad she's not real, but that's okay. I've dated not real Japanese girls before. So there you have it. 5 super fun retro arcade games that you probably haven't played. Definitely worth playing. I have a ton more to show you. This is just a little taste of the scads of neat hidden gem arcade games that I have. So you're going to want to get subscribed if you haven't yet so you don't miss the rest. And if you need a retro doodad to play these on, I've personally been loving playing these sorts of quick pick up and play games on my Flip Zizzle. And I love this transparent white version. It's a super fun and easy to use handheld. There's a link below if you want to pick one up. And now I'd like to hear from you. What are your personal favorite arcade games? Do you have any hidden gem games to suggest that you think most people don't know about? Let's hear what you got in the comments below. And while you're down there, click the thumbs up button if you liked the video, or don't if you didn't. That's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching. Bye bye.